The obsidian throne had not known silence in 300 years. Empress Valtheris, the dragon woman who ruled the crimson expanse with fire and iron, sat motionless as stone. Her scales, once brilliant crimson and gold, had dulled to ash-gray since the Battle of Corvath Ridge. The war against the Velkhari swarm had cost her empire dearly, but nothing compared to what it had taken from her heart. Princess Elsa, her only daughter, lost in the orbital bombardment above Sector 9. The court had stopped speaking her name after the first year. Even dragons learned when grief had teeth. But today, the silence shattered. "Your Imperial Majesty," the herald's voice cracked like thin ice. A human vessel requests audience. They claim to carry someone of royal importance." Valtheris's eyes, molten gold even in mourning, fixed on the trembling messenger. "Send them away. Another pretender seeking favor with false hope." "They broadcast this, Majesty." The herald activated a holodisplay. A young human male appeared, his face scarred, his military jacket bearing the insignia of the Terran Coalition's 43rd Drop Regiment. His eyes were the blue of Earth's oceans, tired but determined. Behind him, partially visible, stood a figure wrapped in thermal blankets. "Empress Valtheris," the human began, his voice rough but respectful. "My name is Sergeant John Matthews, Terran Coalition Armed Forces. 3 years ago, I was part of the relief force at Corvath Ridge. We arrived too late to save most of your fleet, but—" He paused, choosing words carefully. "We found survivors in the wreckage. One of them asked me to bring her home." The figure behind him moved, and a hand emerged from the blankets, scaled, delicate, with 3 fingers and a thumb. Young scales, royal crimson touched with gold. Valtheris rose so quickly her throne cracked. "Bring them to me! Now!" The throne room filled with Imperial guards within minutes, their weapons trained on the small human ship that landed in the palace courtyard. Valtheris descended the grand staircase herself, something she hadn't done since the war's end. Her wings, vast and terrible, unfurled despite her weakened state. The ship's cargo ramp lowered with a hydraulic hiss. John Matthews walked down first, his hands raised and empty. He was smaller than most humans she'd seen, compact and wiry, with the efficient movements of a born soldier. Behind him, moving slowly, came Elsa. Valtheris's breath caught, a sound like distant thunder. Her daughter had changed. The girl who'd left for war at 17, bright-eyed and eager, was now 20, thinner, scarred along her jaw and neck. Her wings were damaged, the left one held at an awkward angle with medical bracing. But she was alive. She was here. "Elsa," Valtheris whispered, the word a prayer and an accusation and a miracle all at once. "Mother." Elsa's voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. She took one step forward, then another, then collapsed. Valtheris moved with supernatural speed, catching her daughter before she hit the ground. Up close, she could see the extent of it. The radiation burns healed into silver scars, the missing scales on her arms, the tremor in her hands. This child had suffered beyond imagination. "What did they do to you?" Valtheris demanded, her voice breaking. "What did those monsters—" "The Velkhari didn't do this," John interrupted quietly, still standing at parade rest. "Ma'am, Your Majesty, she was in a Velkhari prison camp, but the real damage came from survival. 3 years in barely habitable conditions, rationing air, eating whatever wouldn't kill her. She held on because she promised herself she'd get home." Valtheris looked up at this human, really seeing him for the first time. He bore the same haunted look as her daughter, the 1,000-yard stare of someone who'd seen too much death. His jacket was worn, patched in multiple places. A name tag read Matthews J., and below it, a dozen campaign ribbons that told stories of impossible battles. "Why?" Valtheris asked. "Why would a human spend 3 years searching for my daughter when your own people needed you?" John met her eyes without flinching, which was more courage than most beings could muster. Because she saved my life first, ma'am. At Corvath Ridge, when my drop pod crashed in the burning wreckage, she pulled me out, shared her oxygen, got me to an escape shuttle before the reactor went critical. He glanced at Elsa, unconscious in her mother's arms. She made me promise that if I survived and she didn't, I'd tell you she loved you, that she died fighting. But she didn't die. No, ma'am. Found her 2 years into my search, in a Velkari labor camp that Coalition intelligence didn't even know existed. She was using a fake name, working as a maintenance tech, hiding her identity to avoid execution. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. She'd convinced the Velkari she was a low-caste worker from a client species, spoke perfect Velkari trade cant, kept her wings bound, filed down her scales. When I found her, she almost killed me before she recognized my voice. Valtheris carried Elsa toward the palace, her guards parting like water. John followed, uninvited but not dismissed. The extraction wasn't clean, he continued. We had to fight our way out. Lost good people getting to the shuttle. But we made it. Spent 6 months in Coalition medical facilities getting her stable enough for the journey here. They entered the medical wing, where royal physicians rushed forward. As they began examining Elsa, Valtheris turned to face John fully. You are owed a debt that cannot be repaid, human. I don't want payment, Your Majesty. I made a promise to a friend. Nevertheless, Valtheris's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Name your reward. Wealth, land, title, anything within my power. John was quiet for a long moment, watching as the doctors worked on Elsa. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Permission to visit sometimes. To make sure she's okay, that's all. Valtheris studied this strange, stubborn human who'd crossed half the galaxy for a promise made in fire and blood. Dragons understood honor. They understood sacrifice. This human, this John Matthews, understood both. You have more than permission, Sergeant. You have a standing invitation to the Obsidian Palace, and... She hesitated, then continued. My daughter will need friends who understand what she's been through. Friends who've walked through the same darkness. John nodded once. Sharp and military. Thank you, ma'am. As he turned to leave, Elsa's eyes fluttered open. John? Her voice was barely audible. He stopped, looking back. You kept your promise. Both of them, Elsa. I got you home and I told your mom you loved her. Elsa smiled. The first genuine smile Valtheris had seen on her daughter's face, and whispered, Humanity? Fuck her, yeah. John laughed, a sound like breaking chains, and Valtheris found herself smiling too. Perhaps humans were more than she'd given them credit for. Perhaps they were exactly what the galaxy needed. Perhaps they were hope itself, wearing dog tags and determination. The end.